I'm here with bead designer Allie Buchman, and Allie has a beautiful project with us using 2-hole beads. I love this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do here.
So in my world, time is of the essence. I have little kids and I'm kind of running from one thing to another. And bead weaving always really made me super intrigued. I loved the look of it, but I don't want to spend hours and hours. So I had the opportunity to actually sit down, design some beads to speed up that process and really make it versatile. We're creating components and making things that can be used in multiple different ways.
Okay, so how do we get started?
So to get started with this design in particular, we're going to be using the round duo beads, which is a 2-hole round bead. So you may not have seen these. They are a 5mm bead with 2 holes. That allows the process to be sped up because you're able to make your bezel a lot faster.
Okay.
We're just going to put a needle on our thread, and the first really simple step is actually going in and taking 8 beads and putting them on with 8 seed beads in between. So 8 11-0 seed beads and 8 of your round duo beads. Okay. This can also be done with other 2-hole check glass beads as well.
Okay.
Once you have that simple rounded step, you're actually going to do what's called a step up. So those of you that may know seed beading, this is just basic peyote, except instead of using 1 hole, we're using 2 hole. So it's simple. We're just going the whole way around, adding in that second bead.
So in the space
through
in
the
between.
second hand. Exactly. So you're doing that the whole way around to get your second row.
Okay.
Once you do a second row, you're going to do a third row. So it's very simple. Same thing, you get to the end of that second row and you step up and do the third row. I just changed this to the aluminum silver color. That way you know that that third row is on.
Sure.
Once the third row gets on, really, really simple, that's when you start picking up some of your 11-0 seed beads. And it really doesn't matter what color, what type of seed beads you're using. You can even do this step with smaller or larger beads if you prefer that look.
Okay.
This is when the magic happens that you get to actually stick your Rivoli into the center. And this is a 14mm Rivoli. Same thing, you can change up the size and just the count size would change. From here, you actually get to put in your 5 seed beads, and there's 8 beads on our outer row, because remember we started with 8 in our basic row and kept adding. Those 8 beads, we're gonna go to every other bead. So we have on our 5 seed beads that we're gonna put on, and 5 is gonna be the magic number to start.
Okay.
Skip over and past one of those 8 seed beads. So we're going from bead 1, bead 2, and stringing through bead 3.
Okay.
From bead 3, those 5 beads kind of pull that in almost to a rounded area like it's nestled. From there, you continue this 4 times. So we have the 1 on, we're gonna add 5 more seed beads, skip the next one, and go through the next round.
So you're cinching it down, creating more of a frame.
Exactly, and as you cinch, we have 2 in so far, we have 2 more to do. And as we do our third one, you can see then that it's starting to pull that bezel into its shape.
So when do you put the Rivoli in there?
So, interestingly enough, I do the 4th one, and then I'm going to actually come back to that first bead. We're putting that needle and thread in there, and before I pull tight, that's when you drop the Rivoli in. Give a nice tight pull. And then any time I'm doing anything that has a bezeling around it, or I have a stone trapped inside, you're gonna reinforce that.
Sure.
So you wanna take the thread back through that entire row of seed beads, back around the top, and seam that in.
And then you would tie it off.
Exactly.
That looks fantastic.
Yep, it's nice and easy. And then you can really add embellishments and decide if you want seed beads around the sides, kind of link into the sides, and there's different holes here and different options rather than just having a seed bead that's hanging out.
It is so much faster than doing a peyote bezel.
So much faster, yep.
I love it. Let's take a look at these pieces so that we can see some of the versatility. The earrings are just amazing.
Yeah, so the earrings are just taking that and doing it exactly 2 times. So you're just taking the actual step 1, basically, doing it 2 times, putting it on a jump ring, and there you have a set of earrings. It's easy to make the matching set, necklace, earrings really, really quickly.
I love the necklace with the tassel. That's totally my style.
That's definitely my style, too. It takes that really crystal, which when you get crystals and get that shimmer, you can really get into a prom style. And I don't want to look like I'm going to the prom.
It makes it a little more down to earth.
It does. It makes it more down to earth, more wearable. That's the one that I'm going to pick up and put on with a bunch of different clothes and a bunch of different outfits.
And the necklace, choker necklace, is cool because it looks like they're turned on their side, but really it's just the way that you strung it, right?
Yeah, it's just stringing right through the back of it. So once you tie off and kind of get in those corners, you're just actually creating that component that you can then take and even do a bracelet if you want to. You could do it as a cocktail ring like we have here if you want a little bit of bling.
Yeah, I love the ring.
So.
That's really fun. Now, there are some different ways that you can add this to a piece. So, for example, with this necklace, here we'll trade.
Yeah. Yeah, so with this necklace, I have 2 different versions kind of sitting here that you can see that you can wear it on the square, that where you put your bail is going to determine actually which way the pendant piece sits. So you have it on the square or on the diamond here. And I like to play around once I have the finished pieces. A lot of time, what I'm doing is making about 20 of these at a time, sitting down and really just going to town, making a bunch of them, and then starting to piece them together. Once I start piecing them together, I have other options on my bead board, and I have an idea, okay, maybe I want to make this a little bit more down to earth. This is the style, this is the art fashion that's going on right now, and I'll stick this tassel on it.
It looks like you added some more seed beads here in between.
Correct, yep. So once you're done the center seaming, around the sides, I catch on to that second hole of the round duo bead that's not caught on, and that's literally just stringing 2 beads in between each. If you want to make it even a little bit more bold and seamed up, you can add another row of 2, which is really, really simple. It's just counting to 2 and going around in a circle.
Can you talk us through making this bail? I think it's easier to see if you flip it over.
Yep, the bail itself is just made with a ladder stitch. So once you get to the top, if you decide that you want to do it on the square or the round, you'll just literally pick up those cornered seed beads that you added and make a ladder stitch, adding 3 beads at a time, going back through 3. And you can make that bail any size that you want to. Seam it then together by doing that ladder stitch again. Just 3 beads go on, 3 more beads go on, and you're just building it just like a building block.
All right. Well, let's see how you attach the ends too, because we haven't talked a lot about crimping this season.
So the crimping is really, really simple. I actually had help from my 8-year-old here that decided how to make the necklace.
Nice.
And she even knows how to crimp. So that's the really great thing about jewelry making. As I started out, like many people, just doing regular beading, taking gemstones, crimping it on, and it opens up a whole new world. I like to mix those components. So if I'm doing regular seed beading, I don't necessarily want a whole seed beaded necklace. So I just go in with my crimp beads and do just a simple stranded necklace, nothing really, really fancy. Get my bead stopper on after I create my design, and this design might come off 2 or 3 times before I decide, yeah, pink's not really my thing, or maybe I want to pull out the purple more. The crimp bead itself, I have a 2x2 millimeter crimp tube here, and it's just sterling silver crimp tube. And I decided to bring out one of these crystal elements because I want to bring out a little bit more of that crystal design, and it has 2 loops. That gives me the option, which I think I'm going to do, go back into the piece and actually create another strand to go with it. I think it needs a supporting strand. And a lot of times I'll just go in, and this thread is going to move around, or the wire itself. This is 19 strand wire. It's going to move around, so I don't need to worry about that first crimp bead. I'm just tucking it back in. I have a lot of customers and a lot of people that I teach to make jewelry that can't use an actual crimping pliers. It's hard for them. It's another step, another tool that they have. So a lot of times when I am teaching, I'll just teach with a needle nose pliers, bent needle nose, and do a flat crimp.
The horror.
The horror, I know. You see it a little bit, but it's so minuscule, and it's on the back of your neck most of the time. You can add a crimp cover if you want to, but you're just going right in and doing a simple flat crimp. Especially if you're using somebody that has trouble seeing, somebody that may have arthritic hands. They don't have to get that crimp bead perfect. So you're just going in, you're doing that flat crimp, and then if you want to put a crimp cover on, which is just a little rounded ball, it really kind of hides the wire then, and you don't see it at all.
Sure.
You can tuck that wire in, and then once you do, shift over to the other side, and you're doing the exact same thing on the other side. I can also trim that down if I have trouble getting the beads back in. You're going to pick up another crimp bead, put that crimp bead onto your wire, go into the clasp. Whenever you're using a 2-part clasp also, I like to keep the clasp together, so by accident you don't flip it, especially if there's multiple holes.
I've done that too many times.
I've done that multiple times. I've also done 2 where you put the same end on and you think, oh, I just finished this and now I've got to take it apart.
Annoying.
So again, crimp bead goes on, take it down to the bead. Make sure you don't have any extra wire exposed in the process. Go right nice and close, pushing that bead down, giving a tight little pull. In simply with those pliers, which even a little kid can do, or a person that has arthritic hands can do that flat crimp. And then you're just going to grab your wire cutters, and you can either tuck in, like I said, or if you have seed beads here at the end, you might not be able to get that into. Do
I
a
always
nice
trim
flush
it away
cut.
because I just feel like it's not really doing you any favors there.
It's not. It doesn't need to be there.
No, it doesn't need to be there,
Yeah.
and I feel like it just works itself out and pokes you in the neck, and it drives me crazy.
And with this, if I do cut close, I will go in with those crimp covers then and put the crimp covers on to make a nice finished look.
Now, if you wanted to attach the tassel to the front, how do you recommend doing that? Do you weave it in?
So normally when I'm starting, I will weave it in originally right away. It can always be added to the end. That's the beauty of bead weaving. You can pick up thread and needle, re-thread a thread and needle, and go to town. You can pick up this necklace 5 years from now and say, I'll do it.
Right.
So you just put on a couple beads, 4, 5, 6 beads, however many, or no beads at all. You're gonna go through your tassel, pick up that corner bead there at the end, and just sew on. I always tell people, if you can sew a button on, you can bead weave. And then all I'm gonna do is literally knot that on to the actual project. And that's gonna add that tassel right along the bottom.
Perfect. Well, this is a really fun project, and I think this is totally manageable. You could do this in an evening and make a whole bunch.
Yep, grab some girlfriends, have some wine, and make a bunch of
I love it.
components.
Thanks
Yeah.
so much, Allie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure.